prosecutor. Prosecutors say the rapper tried to destroy an Apple Watch in jail to cover his tracks, and he's now being accused of allegedly taking out hits on his own O-Block associates. With his trial currently set for January, the stakes couldn't be higher. We are going to break down all the latest updates in this case.
Nobody expected this to happen. Not now. Not after everything Lil Durk has already survived. But a new FBI report has just leaked online, and the details inside are so shocking, so explosive, and so dangerously connected to the past that the entire hip-hop community is holding its breath. According to multiple sources, the report allegedly links Lil Durk back to the King Von case, reopening questions the world thought were buried years ago for fans. This isn't just another headline. This is a nightmare dossier vu. Every time Durk tries to move forward, every time he starts rebuilding his life, the past somehow finds its way back. But this time, it's not rumors. It's not a blog twisting a story. It's federal attention, and once the feds step in, nothing stays quiet for long. The leaked document doesn't point fingers directly, but what it implies is enough to send shockwaves across the industry. Mentions of old footage. Mentions of old associates. Mentions of unresolved connections tied to the night that world-lost King Von. Nobody is saying Durk is guilty, but the fact that his name appears at all has already restarted a storm the internet thought was finally over within minutes. Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok erupted. Fans demanded answers. Critics celebrated. Bloggers exaggerated everything for clicks. And Durk, silent, completely silent. His team hasn't released a statement, his socials haven't moved. And that silence has only made the situation even more intense. Because deep down, everyone knows the truth. When the FBI revisits a case, they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because something new surfaced. Something important. Something big, and whether Durk is involved or not. The timing couldn't be worse. OTF is already dealing with internal chaos. Von's legacy is still being debated daily, and Durk has been trying to distance himself from drama for months. But now, every move he makes, every person he stands next to, every lyrics he writes, all of it will be watched. This is no longer about entertainment. This is about survival, reputation, and the possibility of the past catching up to someone who's fought for years to leave it behind. And trust me, what comes next might be the biggest twist Durk has ever faced. The moment the FBI report leaked online, the entire hip-hop world shifted in a way nobody expected. 1 second, fans were talking about Durk's next album, and the next second, his name was plastered across headlines, linking him back to the King Von case, a chapter people thought had finally been put to rest. The leaked document didn't accuse him outright, but the way it referenced old timelines, old movements, and old surveillance was enough to shake everyone. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't a blog making up drama. This was the FBI, and when they revisit something, it always means a new piece of information has surfaced. People immediately felt the tension, as if something heavy had been pulled out of the shadows, as the internet exploded. Fans, critics, and bloggers all had the same reaction: confusion mixed with panic. Why now? Why reopen something so old, so sensitive, so painful? Within minutes, Twitter threads were full of theories. TikTok clips were spreading fear, and YouTube comment sections started digging up every old detail from the night Von died. Every rumor, every interview, every grainy clip was suddenly alive again. And because Durk and Von were more than friends, they were brothers in music and life-seeing. Durk's name listed in an FBI document instantly made people believe that the past had never truly been closed. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, silence took over. OTF members who are usually loud on social media suddenly disappeared. Rappers who often mention Durk stayed unusually quiet, People close to the industry started hinting that this leak wasn't accidental. It's something inside law enforcement had shifted. The document mentioned unresolved connections and pending cross-references. Terms that didn't accuse Durk of anything, but still painted a picture heavy enough to make the internet spin out of control. Every line felt like a reminder that the story of that night was never fully told. Not to the public, not to the media, and maybe not even to the people closest to it. And through all of this, Durk himself stayed silent. No posts, no statements, no subtle likes, nothing. And that silence became louder than any headline. Fans wondered if he had been warned. Critics wondered if he was preparing for something. Supporters prayed it was just a misunderstanding. But one thing became undeniable: the FBI revisiting anything connected to King Von Means. Something new has landed on their radar. Something important. Something big. And whether or not Durk has anything to worry about, the storm has already begun. And the world is watching closely to see where it hits next. As the leaked report continued circulating, people began focusing on the most chilling detail inside it. The FBI wasn't revisiting the Atlanta incident itself, they were re-examining everything that led up to it. That meant the weeks before the tragedy, the people involved, the arguments erupting in different cities, and the movements of everyone connected. For the first time, fans realized investigators weren't looking at a single moment. They were trying to reconstruct an entire timeline. And because Durk and Von were constantly around each other, constantly moving together, constantly connected during that period, Durk's name resurfacing became an unavoidable part of the investigation, whether he was involved or not. But what truly fueled the panic wasn't his name appearing in the file. It was the names around it. The document referenced individuals fans recognized, individuals from OTF, individuals from rival camps, and even individuals whose involvement had never been publicly discussed. This opened a floodgate of speculation. Who talked? Who stayed silent? Who provided information that had been dormant for years? Suddenly, people began pulling up old altercations, old arguments, backstage incidents, moments fans had forgotten, and connecting them to the renewed investigation. Every screenshot, every clip, every blog post now felt like a clue in a bigger puzzle. Meanwhile, insiders began whispering about something even more unsettling: that the FBI wasn't just looking at the past out of curiosity. They were reportedly trying to connect multiple unsolved incidents involving different crews, different cities, and different confrontations. Whether accurate or not, the rumors spread fast. Fans started claiming the feds were building a massive web of connections, tracing alliances and rivalries that went deeper than music. And if that was true, then Durk being even slightly connected to someone who was connected to someone else in the file was enough to land him in the spotlight once again. Not as a criminal, but as a person of interest in a story bigger than him. Through all of this, the fear in the industry was palpable. Producers canceled sessions. Rappers hesitated to bring up Durk's name. Even blogs, which normally feed off chaos, became careful with their wording. Nobody wanted to be the first to say something wrong, the first to accuse someone incorrectly, the first to point fingers at the wrong person. Because when the FBI steps into the hip-hop world, the rules change. Loyalty becomes fragile. Old alliances become liabilities. And the past becomes something that can resurface at any moment, whether you're ready for it or not. As the leak continued spreading, new voices began stepping into the conversation. People who claimed to know pieces of the story the public had never heard. A former security worker hinted that investigators had been asking questions months ago, quietly, without drawing attention. Another insider suggested that certain locations connected to Von's final months had already been revisited by federal agents. None of these claims were confirmed, but the pattern was too obvious to ignore. Something was happening behind the scenes, something bigger than a simple old file being reopened. And even though Durk wasn't named as a suspect, the fact that his movements from years ago were being examined sent shockwaves through everyone who followed the case. The internet tried piecing everything together, but every new clue only deepened the confusion. Old interviews of Von resurfaced, moments where he talked about loyalty, about pressure, about the tension he felt in the streets and the industry. Fans reanalyzed every clip of him and Durk together, looking for hints, signs, unexplained moments. People replayed footage from the days leading up to the tragedy, trying to understand why the timeline mattered now. And the more people dug, the more questions emerged about calls made. Cities visited, arguments that happened quietly behind the music scene. What seemed like a closed chapter suddenly felt like a puzzle still missing its final pieces. Inside the industry, however, the fear wasn't about the leak. It was about the possibilities it created. Producers worried their studios would get dragged into subpoenas. Managers wondered if their artists would be questioned. Even people who had nothing to do with Durk or Von felt the pressure. Because once the feds start connecting dots, they don't stop at one crew. Rumors spread that agents were trying to map out relationships between different camps, old rivalries, and unresolved conflicts that happened before the world knew their impact. The sense that a much larger investigation might be unfolding sent the entire rap community into defensive mode, cautious, quiet, alert. And then came the biggest concern of all. If the FBI was reconstructing the past, who else would get pulled into the spotlight? Friends, collaborators, people who were present at the wrong time, in the wrong place. The possibility alone was enough to make people disappear from social media, cancel shows, or distance themselves from anything that could connect them to that timeline. The deeper the leak spread, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a story about Durk being mentioned. This was a story about the past returning with full force. And everyone who lived through that era could feel the pressure closing in again by the time the sun had dipped low over Chicago. The tension surrounding Lil Durk's name had reached a fever pitch. Social media was ablaze, every corner of the internet dissecting rumors, leaks, and alleged insider tips that had been circulating all day. What had started as whispers in forums and cryptic posts from unknown accounts had now erupted into a full-blown frenzy, with people claiming to have seen documents, heard audio clips, or even witnessed events firsthand. The streets, too, reflected the chaos. From downtown blocks to residential neighborhoods, fans and onlookers were debating, speculating, and at times outright panicking. The feeling was almost cinematic, as if the entire city had become the stage for an unfolding thriller, where every move, every glance, and every leaked detail mattered. At the center of it all was Durk himself. Sources allege that he remained unusually calm throughout the surge of activity. Friends and associates reported that he had been meeting quietly with his closest crew members in undisclosed locations, reviewing footage, monitoring social media, and tracing every possible lead that might connect him or his name to the newly emerged FBI documentation. Allegedly, some of the leaked materials detailed interactions and events from years ago, events that most fans had believed were long forgotten. The implications were enormous. If authorities were able to piece together connections from that time, it could reopen old cases, reignite feuds, or even put people close to him under scrutiny. Every ally, every former associate, every street connection suddenly became a point of intense scrutiny. Meanwhile, the online community exploded with analysis and speculation. Clips from old interviews, footage from shows, and even casual social media posts from years prior were dissected as though they were evidence. Fans noticed patterns in Durk's old statements, revisited King Von's archived content, and examined timelines to see if they aligned with what the FBI reportedly documented. Some suggested that the investigation's timing was no coincidence. claiming that certain events were orchestrated to coincide with Durk's current career milestones. Others theorized that rival rappers, including some with known tensions against him, might be feeding misinformation, attempting to manipulate public perception before authorities could make any official statements. The sheer volume of information became overwhelming. The rumor mill had turned into a self-propagating machine, where each new claim, verified or not, fueled even more speculation. Inside Durk's circle, sources suggest the atmosphere was a mix of strategy and caution. Crew members reportedly held private meetings late into the night, discussing every angle, every potential threat, and how to respond without creating further vulnerability. Allegedly, the discussion extended beyond media management. They were mapping out contingencies, monitoring movements of key individuals, and even speculating on what federal attention could mean for long-term alliances. The paranoia was palpable. One unnamed source described it as a chess game where every piece, every pawn, and every observer could alter the board in seconds. In a world where loyalty and timing are everything, even a small misstep could ignite new drama, reintroduce old feuds, or expose sensitive details that were meant to stay buried. Then came the leaks that truly made the city and the internet freeze in disbelief. Reports surfaced claiming that certain text messages, calls, and even location data had been recovered from devices connected to Durk's name. Linking back to events surrounding King Von, these claims, though unverified, were enough to send shockwaves across fan communities, news outlets, and even industry insiders. People questioned the authenticity of the documents, debating whether it was a strategic leak, an inside setup, or an honest revelation of investigative progress. Theories ranged from wild conspiracy narratives involving rival crews to meticulous breakdowns of Durk's past movements. Social media exploded with hashtags and threads. Hashtag DURK investigation, hashtag King Von case, and hashtag new evidence, each gaining traction by the minute. Each spinning narratives faster than any official confirmation could emerge as speculation mounted. Street-level reports began surfacing, adding another layer of intrigue. Individuals claimed to see unmarked vehicles near locations linked to Durk, alleged private meetings between unknown parties, and even sightings of people who might be affiliated with federal operations. Every rumor, no matter how small, amplified the sense of chaos. Local news outlets struggled to report responsibly without verification, but the pressure from fans and viewers made it nearly impossible to avoid sensational coverage. Meanwhile, industry insiders expressed concern, warning that the situation could spiral into a public relations nightmare if not managed carefully. The line between reality, rumor, and speculation blurred, leaving fans, media, and associates scrambling to separate fact from fiction. Throughout all this, Durk reportedly maintained a calculated silence in public spaces. No social media posts, no interviews, no public appearances, deliberate moves to control the narrative. Friends and insiders claim that this wasn't avoidance. It was strategy. Every statement he might have made could be used against him, either legally or in public perception. Allegedly, he spent the time coordinating with his team, tracking the flow of information, and preparing to respond in ways that would preserve both his reputation and his safety. Observers note that this level of control, paired with the surrounding chaos, created a surreal effect. Durk became both the center of speculation and the invisible strategist behind the scenes. And just as the night reached its peak, sources say another leak emerged, a cryptic audio clip allegedly involving discussions about potential threats, loyalty, and strategy. Fans and analysts immediately began dissecting the voice, tone, and timing. Some claimed it hinted at long-standing alliances being tested. Others suggested it confirmed that Durk had been aware of these inquiries for months and had planned responses accordingly. Regardless of the authenticity of the clip, the effect was undeniable. Social media and street chatter went into overdrive. Memes were created, forums exploded. And the narrative around Durk and the King Von case reached a level of intensity rarely seen in hip-hop history by the early hours of the morning. The situation had transformed into a full-blown cultural event. Fans debated every possibility. Journalists filed stories at breakneck speed, and the streets remained on high alert. The uncertainty, combined with the alleged leaks and ongoing speculation, ensured that the story would continue evolving for days, weeks, or even months. And as the world watched, insiders hinted that Durk's team had one final layer of strategy ready. An action that could either clarify the narrative or push it into an even darker, more explosive direction. Whatever came next, the saga surrounding Lil Durk. The FBI reports and the King Von case had officially reached a new level of intensity, one that left fans, critics, and insiders alike glued to every new update. As the sun began to rise over Chicago, the city felt differentiated, restless, and tense. Lil Durk's name had become the epicenter of a storm that seemed unstoppable. The alleged FBI report linking him back to the King Von case had sent shockwaves far beyond social media. Now, news outlets, music blogs, and even mainstream media were scrambling to cover the story. Every tweet, post, and livestream was dissected by fans and analysts alike, with speculation running wild about what the next move might be. People weren't just talking about Durk, they were talking about the potential ripple effect. How his career, alliances, and personal relationships could all be affected. Streets that once buzzed with routine energy now carried a different tension, as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next revelation to drop. Inside his circle, sources allege that Durk was operating with the precision of a strategist in a high-stakes game. Meetings reportedly took place in secure, undisclosed locations, with trusted crew members reviewing documents, analyzing leaks, and planning responses to any potential fallout. Allegedly, conversations focused not only on protecting Durk's public image, but also on understanding the legal implications of the new information. Every detail matters of the timing of statements, the wording of posts, and the potential exposure of allies were all under scrutiny. Crew members reportedly worked in shifts, monitoring the flow of information across the internet, tracking which outlets were reporting which angles, and anticipating the reactions from both fans and rivals. The sense of urgency was palpable, with insiders describing the situation as a chessboard with invisible players moving in the dark. Meanwhile, the online world continued to explode with content. Fans revisited old footage, dug into archives, and speculated about connections that could link Durk directly to events surrounding King Von. Some alleged that private messages and phone records had surfaced, while others claimed that unnamed sources inside law enforcement were feeding information to select outlets. The result was a wildfire of discussion, with hashtags trending across multiple platforms. Hashtag Lil Durk FBI, hashtag King Von case, hashtag new leaks, and more. Every rumor, verified or not, spread like wildfire, with fans combing through minutiae to piece together the narrative themselves. Memes, commentary videos, and live stream reactions dominated feeds, while fan communities debated fiercely over authenticity, motive, and potential outcomes. The story had grown beyond just news. It had become a cultural moment, shaping conversations, influencing opinions, and captivating audiences far beyond Chicago. Then came RapShock. The prominent hip-hop news outlet reportedly gained exclusive access to insider information, giving fans their first glimpse into details that had not yet circulated widely. According to sources cited by RapShock, the connections outlined in the alleged FBI report were more intricate than previously imagined, involving not only Durk, but also other figures tied to King Von's past. RapShock's coverage didn't just summarize events, it contextualized them, highlighting how alliances, rivalries, and old disputes could suddenly become legally and culturally relevant again. Fans reacted instantly, sharing clips of RapShock's analysis, debating its credibility, and dissecting every word. The outlet became a central hub for anyone trying to follow the rapidly evolving story, and its reporting added a sense of legitimacy to claims that had previously floated in the realm of rumor and speculation. As the day progressed, reports suggested that Durk's team was preparing a multi-layered strategy to respond, not only to public perception but also to potential legal challenges. Friends and insiders claimed that measures were being taken to secure sensitive communications, reinforce loyalty within his circle, and mitigate any attempts by rivals to exploit the situation. Allegedly, this included discreet coordination with legal experts, media strategists, and even street-level allies, ensuring that no misstep could escalate into a larger problem. Every interaction, every public appearance, and every social media post was reportedly being scrutinized before release. The sense of controlled chaos was nearly tangible. Durk remained at the center, calm and deliberate, while the storm of speculation and reaction swirled around him like an unrelenting tide. By evening, the story had reached a fever pitch. Social media, street corners, and newsrooms were all consumed by theories, debates, and predictions. Some speculated that Durk's career could be jeopardized, while others argued that he had the resources, alliances, and influence to weather the storm. RapShock's updates continued to provide context, analysis, and insider perspective, cementing the outlet's role as a key source for fans following the narrative. Meanwhile, Durk himself maintained a measured silence in public, allowing his team to control the message and anticipate reactions. Every leak, rumor, or claim was met with strategic response, designed to protect both him and his associates while keeping fans engaged and invested in the unfolding story. By the end of the day, the combination of leaked reports, public speculation, and RapShock's coverage had transformed the situation into more than a legal or media matter. It had become a cultural event with global attention. Fans, insiders, and media outlets were all waiting for the next move, knowing that any new revelation could instantly shift a narrative. While uncertainty remained, one thing was clear: Lil Durk had stepped into a storm that few could ignore, and the consequences of this episode would echo far beyond a single headline. And as RapShock continued to track the story in real time, providing insight, analysis, and breaking updates, it became evident that the saga surrounding Durk, the FBI, and the King Von case was far from over. It had only just entered its most intense and revealing chapter. The story isn't over, and the streets are still buzzing. Lil Durk's latest situation, tied to the FBI report and the King Von case, has fans and critics glued to every post, clip, and rumor. Now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you really think? Was this a carefully orchestrated move, a legal nightmare, or something fans haven't even uncovered yet? Drop your hottest theories in the comments, share the video with your crew, and let the debate explode. Don't forget to smash that like button if you're living for this chaos. Subscribe to stay updated on every twist, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single leak, exclusive report, or RapShock update. The story is still unfolding, the alliances are shifting, and the drama is only getting started. Stay tuned, because the next twist could change everything. #LilDurk, #KingVon, FBI, #RapShock, #HipHopDrama, #Street News, #Exclusive Leaks.